A very good evening and welcome to this Sunday's edition of News First Weekend, coming to you live from our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. I'm Arundhati Mudannaika. Let's start off with a look at the stories making headlines this evening.
Signs of a hike in bus fares. State deprived of 38 billion rupees in revenue through issuing concessionary vehicle permits. Road rage in Kottawa.
Hey, man.
US Navy aid ship makes port in Colombo. Politicians respond to the unusual gazetting of institutions following cabinet reshuffle.
Taking a look at a developing story tonight, the Ceylon Today newspaper reports that the state has been deprived of 38 billion rupees in revenue through the importation of vehicles on concessionary permits.
Quoting the annual report of the Ministry of Finance, the Ceylon Today reports that the revenue foregone due to concessionary vehicle permits was reduced in 2016 as it declined to 38.2 billion rupees from 40 billion rupees in 2015. According to the Finance Ministry's annual report, the registration of vehicles also declined in 2016 from 2015, with the registration of cars reduced by 57.2%, buses by 35.1% and three-wheelers by 56%. While a decision was made in the past to halt duty-free vehicle permits for MPs, this was reversed in May last year. The Finance Ministry issued a circular effective from the 1st of June, stating that the duty concession for vehicles valued at less than $25,000 would be 65%. The duty concession for vehicles valued at between $25,000 and $30,000 is 60%. During an event held in Mathura today, journalists questioned the former Finance Minister and current Foreign Minister regarding the situation.
Everyone was able to procure duty-free vehicles in the past. This is being reduced gradually and we are on a journey to halt the practice completely. If you are questioning these two, then the wrong impression is being given to the public. When we took charge of the country, revenue amounted to 10.2% of GDP. Today it has increased to 16.2%.
The state has already lost more than 3 billion rupees in revenue as a result of this scam. The total loss of revenue for the state and the people of this country is more than 7 billion rupees. People who pledged to punish the Rajapaksas and eradicate bribery and corruption are acting in this way today. The permit scam is being carried out in public. They sell it and pocket the cash. In addition to this, they purchase another vehicle using the taxpayers' money for their use. This proves that this is a state-sponsored tax scam. As was said in Ravi Karunanayaka's first budget speech, the vehicle bought on the permit is sold and then another vehicle is purchased using the taxpayers' money for their use. What is most shameless here is that having done all of this, they try to appear before the public as saints. Before Mahinda Rajapaksa was deposed, the Commonwealth meeting was held in this country. Several super luxury vehicles were brought to the country for this purpose. What happened to all these vehicles? It is impossible to earn millions and billions in politics without defrauding the funds of the state and the public. Meanwhile, there are people in this country who are struggling to eat 1 square meal a day, let alone 3.
A proper system needs to be introduced. For example, I have heard that in finance, an individual who has completed a certain number of years in service can obtain a duty-free vehicle, but if they wish to sell it, then they must repay the foregone revenue to the state. The vehicles are maintained by the state. When required, it is given to an individual, but when they leave office, they must return the vehicle. If we had such a system, we would not lose revenue since the vehicles will be reused. There is a permit mania in our country. In the face of the crisis we are facing now, our MPs have a social responsibility to be patient, at least until we have overcome this crisis.
On the
one hand, they are causing the state to bear the cost for their personal luxuries, and on the other hand, they are calling on the public to tighten their belts because the country needs to increase its tax revenue. We see that this has become a constant theme for this government.
The cabinet reshuffle and the institutions that have been gazetted to these various ministries have stirred controversy in the political arena.
The lottery ticket sellers stopped selling and held an island-wide strike for the first time in the country in the recent past. The problem worsened and President Maithripala Sirisena intervened. He said that the lottery tickets should be sold at 20 and not at 30. When the Foreign Ministry was handed to him, the lottery matters went away from him. He pressurized asking for these two lotteries boards under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Why this was done is still a question before the country. There is no one who won through the reshuffle.
අනේ මෙහෙම තණ්හාවක් අනේ මෙහෙම ආසාවක් කුට්ටමැනීම තුලින් දිනපු කිසිවෙකුත් නැහැ.
The whole country rallied against the actions of the government. This time around, those objections were directed towards the Ministry of Ports and the ministries held by the UNP group headed by the Prime Minister. There has been no change in those policies. The decisions that have been reached in the past have not changed. Now it is with the Sirisena group. Now the objection will be directed towards the Sirisena faction and nowhere else. The UNP has directed these public objections towards the Sirisena faction and washed their hands. There were no promotions that were carried out in the lottery sector in the recent past. The sellers took to the streets and commenced strike actions. All these were done during the time of the finance minister. Now the lotteries board has been gazetted under the foreign ministry so that the minister can go to England, America or other European Western countries and sell the lottery tickets when the local sellers go on strike. He must be trying to sell lotteries tickets there.
Sri Lankan Airlines, which continues to face an economic tragedy, will make the last instalment payment for the cancellation of 3 Airbus aircraft this month.
Down of costs relating to the termination and amendment agreement following the collapse of the aircraft deal is as follows. Non-refundable deposit $56 million, immediate payment $10.5 million, 6 installments $79.8 million, lease of Airbus 200 loss unknown, total cost exceeding $146.3 million, while the total cost of the transaction stands exceeding $146.3 million or a staggering 22,299,046,000 rupees. The total gain for the country as a result of all this is an absolute zero. Questions remain as to who placed this order, who benefited from these transactions, and why is there no inquiry. It was revealed in Parliament recently that the insurance payment to the flood victims would amount only up to 8,889,600,000 rupees.
2 brothers were killed when they were run over by a train this evening while attempting to snap a selfie on Marine Drive in Colombo 3. The police say the 2 brothers were run over by the Colombo-Galle train at about 5:45 p.m. today. The brothers, hailing from Anuradhapura, were aged 24 and 12. The elder brother had returned to the country today from Singapore and had come to Marine Drive in Colombo from the airport in Katunayaka, accompanied by his parents and family. Moving on, an incident on road rage involving a car and a private bus was reported from the Rukmalgama area in Kottava.
Hey, man!
A private bus plying from Mathuragiriya towards Peta that attempted to overtake another bus was forced to stop on its path due to a car which is travelling on the correct side of the road. The enraged bus driver had attempted to attack the car with a metal pole.
There was a bus that had stopped at the bus halt. Another bus overtook it and came on the wrong side of the road. It came right in front of my car, blocking the road I was travelling on. So I stopped the car, rolled down my shutter and asked what happened. I asked him if he had done the right thing. The driver and the conductor of the bus got down and assaulted me with metal poles.
According to the police, both drivers reached a settlement based on the advice of the OIC of the Kottava police.
Police have launched investigations into an incident where a captain attached to the Sri Lanka Army was assaulted.
According to the police media spokesperson's office, the captain had been assaulted by an individual while he was at a private car park in Kattaragama. When inquired, Sri Lanka Army spokesperson Brigadier Roshan Siniviratne noted that the incident had occurred when he had travelled to Kattaragama for personal reasons.
The police announced today that they arrested a student with 400 milligrams of heroin from the Madagama area in Bibila.
According to the police, the student had been spotted riding a motorcycle when police officers had been inspecting vehicles in the Madagama area in Polgahavela. The suspect was stopped, and since he did not have a driver's license, the police officers conducted a thorough search which revealed drugs. According to the police, 4 packets of heroin weighing 100 milligrams each were discovered in the suspect's trouser pocket. The suspect has been identified as a 17-year-old advanced level student from the Malallagama area in Bibila. Investigations have revealed that the suspect may have been involved in smuggling drugs together with his stepfather. Accordingly, the police also took steps to search the suspect's residence. Further investigations are being carried out by the police. The SSP in charge of the Munragala district, Aruna Prema Shanta, is leading the investigations. Sri Lanka Customs notes that over the past year, attempts have been made to smuggle nearly 8 kilograms of heroin worth over 80 million rupees into the country through the Bandaranayake International Airport. According to Customs media spokesperson Dharmasena Kahandava, the majority of the heroin that was intercepted at the BIA had been carried by Pakistani nationals. Meanwhile, several anti-narcotic centers have been set up around the country in order to curb the quantity of drugs entering the country through the sea. This cattle shed located in the Gannoru area has been built on a plot of land leased out by the Buddhist Affairs Commissioner for a residential purpose. The Yatiyantuta PHI office announced today that they had informed the owner of the lease to take steps to dismantle the cattle shed within 3 weeks. This cattle shed bears testament to the flimsy nature of the Ministry of Rural Economy's plan to uplift the Sri Lankan dairy industry by importing 20,000 dairy cows. Through our initial revelation on the 6th of this month, we revealed that this plot of land, which belongs to the Vishnu Devalaya, has been leased out by a veterinarian attached to the Veterinary Research Institute. The 20 cows housed in this shed have been purchased from the Ministry of Rural Economy by a professor attached to the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine at the University of Peradeniya at a concessionary rate of 200,000 rupees per cow. On the 29th of March, the Ministry of Rural Economy took steps to inform the professor to place his deposit for the 20 cows. However, this had been done in a backdrop where over 5,600 applicants had made requests to purchase dairy cows based on this advert. It is surprising that the professor was asked to make his deposit before all the applicants were properly vetted. Interestingly, the Ministry of Rural Economy also takes steps to publish a criteria for the selection of beneficiaries to purchase dairy cows after a decision was reached to release 20 cows into the care of the professor in question. When taking this criteria into consideration, it is surprising that ministry officials took steps to release 20 imported dairy cows for this cattle shed. These dairy cows are worth an estimated 9 million rupees. The government has spent 5 million rupees to purchase them. However, when considering the state of this cattle shed and that the government released these cows into the care of this cattle shed, the only conclusion that can be drawn is that the government has wasted 5 million rupees. The cattle shed also pollutes the paddy field and stream located in close proximity to it. I checked everything. We have given him a notice to remove this. If it is not done in time, we will take action. We initiate legal action after checking everything. Before the program to import dairy cows was initiated, an additional secretary on the 17th of March informed the Director General of Animal Production and Health of the Ministry of Rural Economy that farms in which these cows will be placed are being examined. However, it seems that this cattle shed has been exempted from this inspection as 18 days prior to this letter, the Ministry of Rural Economy informs the professor in question to deposit the money required to obtain the imported cows. The cabinet memorandum produced by the subject minister on the 24th of March, which details the activities of the project to import 20,000 cows, can be seen as a move to fool the entire ministry. Action TV will reveal more details tomorrow.
Verbal abuse and threats levelled by Minister John Amarathunga to a journalist recently was taken up at several media briefings held today.
The walking path in Mabola, Wattala, was recently removed by a minister. Today, the same minister is continuously threatening journalists who reported the story. Now, this minister is acting like an elephant in heat. When this happens, the elephant must be tied up. We must accept that throughout our history, every government has oppressed the media in some way. When speaking about John Amarathunga, we must remember that during the Great Terror, a journalist from the Diva newspaper died in an unusual motor accident in Wattala. There was suspicion in the media that it was murder. When the police carried out investigations, they found this journalist's helmet and wristwatch in then MP John Amarathunga's house. I am saying this with responsibility as a journalist at that time. We heard the profanities uttered by John Amarathunga, some of which was censored. Minister John Amarathunga must apologize to the journalists concerned.
The heavy rainfall being experienced in the Central Hills has rejuvenated several key waterfalls in the area. Our correspondents in the Hill Country sent us this footage of major waterfalls roaring with new life.
While the rainfall has restored the scenic beauty of the Central Hills following a prolonged drought, the National Building Research Organisation has issued a warning for landslides and cut failures. The warnings is in effect for the Ratnapura, Kegol, Gaul, Kalutara, Matara and Hambantota districts. While the southwest of the island is still reeling from the recent floods and landslides, the Disaster Management Centre says close to 200,000 people in 11 districts have been affected by the drought. The DMC noted that the Trincomalee, Ampara, Batikalo, Jaffna, Mullaitivu, Kilinochchi, Puttalam and Vavuniya districts have been severely impacted. The Jaffna district is stated to be the worst affected. The Met Department meanwhile is warning of high wind speeds along the northern coast from Puttalam to Trincomalee and along the southern coast from Mathura to Pothuwil. Forecasts warn of wind speeds of 60 to 70 kilometers per hour.
Meanwhile, the Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy says that the water levels of reservoirs in the vicinity of hydropower plants have increased to 48% of their capacity. Media spokesperson Sulakshana Jayawardena said that 20% of the daily demand is being met at present through hydropower plants. However, Jayawardena added that the general public should continue to use electricity sparingly. Also, the USS Lake Erie vessel docked at the Colombo port today in order to provide assistance to those affected by flooding and landslides in Sri Lanka.
Media spokesperson of the Sri Lanka Navy, Lieutenant Commander Chaminda Valakulage, notes that the USS Lake Erie has brought in a team of 150 personnel who will be deployed in affected areas.
Welcome aboard, sir. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
The teams will continue to remain in the country for the next 14 days. The USS Lake Erie is also expected to take part in naval exercises along with the Sri Lankan Navy.
Speaking at a media briefing held in Kurunegala today, Deputy Minister of Transport Ashok Abesinghe commented on an upcoming hike in bus fares.
A revision of bus fares is conducted in July every year. If these talks go ahead, bus fares may increase by 6 to 6.5%. At the moment, it is still being discussed. The current minimum fare is 9 rupees, and when a passenger pays 10 rupees, they usually don't receive the 1 rupee in change. We are holding discussions about the minimum fare too. It is still in talks and a decision has not been made to implement it. The minister also spoke on a new program being implemented for three-wheeler drivers. A training program is being discussed for individuals obtaining a driving license for three-wheelers. As soon as we have 200 applications for licenses to drive three-wheelers, the training will be conducted in Verahara. They will receive a certificate, and only after receiving the certificate can they continue the process of obtaining a license. Through this, we are hoping to promote safety consciousness and discipline among three-wheeler drivers.
The Sri Lanka police convened a media briefing today.
Over the past month, we have received reports of 2 mosques and several establishments that belong to Muslim businessmen being torched. We have launched investigations. 4 locations in the Nugegoda Vijayaram area were set on fire, and we have arrested the main suspect connected to these acts of arson. He is being detained under detention orders. He is a 32-year-old individual and the son of a doctor. An individual of Tamil ethnicity has been arrested in connection to the attack on a mosque in Trincomalee. Investigations revealed that a dispute between 2 groups had led to the incident. A Muslim national who made a post on Facebook which denigrated Lord Buddha has been arrested and placed in remand custody.
Housing and Construction Minister Sajid Premadasa declared open a community service building in Lunugam Vehera today.
This building was constructed under a national program to develop 15,000 villages. I thought this is a good time to remind the people of this ritual of smashing coconuts. They smash coconuts at the shrine in Donderhead, and then they smash coconuts at the shrine in Kadavara. 20,000 homes were lost. 700 to 800,000 people were affected. If they have surpluses of coconuts and rice, then what the opposition should do is package it and distribute it among the people who are affected by the floods. But the opposition is asleep today. I am glad to say that we have commenced a historic relief program at the village level.
A group of florists plying their trade outside the Mangala Raja Mahavihari in Seruvila staged a demonstration opposite the temple today.
The vendors, who said they had been plying their trade at this location for several years, claimed to have been informed to close down their shops.
දැන් මා අවුරුදු 7ක් විතර මේ රස්සාව තමයි දරුවෝ 4 දෙනාට මේ ජීවත් වෙන්න මේ මල් විකුණලා තමයි අපි ජීවත් වුනේ.
මල් ටික විකුණන්න එහාට ගියා මම මෙයයි දෙන්න. ගියාට පස්සේ ඇහුවා මගෙන් තෝ කොහෙද යන්නේ කියලා. මම ගෝ මල් ටිකක් දෙන්න යන්නේ මේ වන්දනාවේ අපි මිනිස්සුන්ට කියලා. මෙහාට වර බලන්න කියලා පොල් අරගෙන මට ගැහුවා. ඊට පස්සේ ගමේ මිනිස්සු ඒරම දුවගෙන ගිහින් එතෙන්ට ගිහින් මාව උස්සලා ගත්ත කට්ටිය.
Our correspondent noted that the incident had been recorded on a mobile phone by a bystander. It was also reported that a flower shop allegedly belonging to a monk who has been prohibited from entering the temple by court order was vandalized last night. The premises were for sale, so I purchased it. It was under construction. Some people from the temple and their associates have come and destroyed it. The florist demonstration has not drawn support from all quarters of the village. A tense argument broke out between the protesters and a group of villagers. News first made inquiries from the chief incumbent of the Mangala Rajama Viharya, Venerable Munghene Metta Ramathera, regarding the allegation that the florists had been prohibited from operating outside the temple. I do not know anything about that. We have not prohibited them from trading. The shop that was reportedly destroyed belongs to a monk who has been prohibited by court order from entering the temple. We cannot operate such a shop within the temple premises. I was not at the temple yesterday. Such a thing has not happened.
That's a look at Weekend Primetime News for tonight. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Arundhati Mudannayaka. Have a great week ahead of you. Good night.